Hi guys, today I want to make a bit of a special video because we already talked about the Acquila Favonia and the Skyward blade, but I felt like we didn't really talk enough about this weapon. I wanted to go a bit more in depth. So I created this hypothetical study where we have a character with an attack speed of 0.7, an attack of 100, and he has no artifact or buff on. So the total attack of this character with the Acquila Favonia equipped would be 100 plus 674, that is the attack of the Favonia at level 19, that multiply 1.2, because the Favonia has an attack multiplier in its passive of 20%. And this 0 is because we have no artifact or food enabled, but if we had to change this. Now, in total, so we have 916.8 total attack. The damage that we will do will be the total attack of your character that multiply the skill damage. Now, I just say that the skill that we are using is a multiplier of 1. So it doesn't really change the damage at all. And then you multiply it for 1 plus the damage bonus in percent. Because the Acquila Favonia has a 41.3% physical damage bonus, this translates to a 1.413 multiplier. That's practically it's 1.4. The 13 is not really useful. And at the end of the day, so with your physical attack only, we do 1295 damage. And this is the elemental attack, because if you use an elemental skill, this 1.4 multiplier will not apply, because it's only physical damage bonus. So keep in mind that this is the damage we do with your attacks. This is the damage that you will do with your skill if it's an elemental skill. Now, the Skyward blade, it's a bit different, because as we know, it gives you 4% crit rate, that's in Atlas, so it's garbage. And when you use an elemental burst, you gain 10% move speed, 10% attack speed, and 20% more damage on attack and charged attacks. So the total attack is 100, so your character, plus 608, that is the sword attack. But we have no attack multiplier and no artifact, so the total attack is 708, a bit lower than the Favonia. And the damage is the total attack that multiply 1 because the skill is the same, and then this way it multiply 1.2 because it has a damage bonus of 20%, but only on normal and charged attacks. So this multiplier does not apply on elemental attacks like your skill. So this is the damage that you will do if you use a skill without this multiplier. And this is the damage that you do with your normal and charged attacks. And you see that there is a big difference. It's nearly a 400 difference. It's like 315, a bit more, but there is a big difference. Now, I wanted to see if the 10% attack speed created a big difference in damage output. And what I saw is that the 10% doesn't really help you at all. Why? So a 10% attack speed on 0.7, it's only 0.63 attack speed. So we attack a bit faster. Now, of course, what happened is that in 4 attack, I do this damage with the Favonia and with the Skyward blade. This is the damage I do with the Skyward blade. And this is the time I use. So in 2.5 seconds, I do 4 attacks, and this is the damage that the output damage. And this is the Favonia. I waste 0.3 more seconds for 4 attacks, but I do a lot of more damage. And I also did another math here. I wanted to see how many attacks could you do in 10 seconds, and I found out that with the 10% attack speed, you can do 15 attacks in 10 seconds, while the Favonia blade can only do 14 attacks in 10 seconds. So you attack 1 time more. The problem is that then I calculated the damage. So I took this number and I multiplied it for the attacks. And this, as we saw, it's 12,735. Now, let's take a look at the Favonia. As we know, its damage is 1, and you multiply it for 40. You see the difference in damage? This is 8,000, 18,000. So there is a big difference, nearly 6,000 damage difference. So I think that in raw damage, the Acquila Favonia actually outplay this weapon a lot. Even because, let's be like, 10 seconds is actually a lot of time. Most enemies, like boss and elite enemy, you will probably not attack them a lot. You have a few seconds for attack them. And so, the big difference is that the Skyward Blade, with such a low attack speed bonus, can't really out-damage the Acquila Favonia in any way. And with lower time to damage, it's pretty much useless the attack speed. And against normal enemies, you just melt them with the Acquila Favonia. Now, and keep in mind that the passive of the Acquila Favonia, I only took the attack bonus. We have the other part of the passive that regenerate HP and deal damage when you take damage. So the Acquila Favonia itself right now is actually much better than the Skyward Blade. And as we know, at max refine, this goes up to 14% attack increase, and this also goes up to a 14%. But the problem is that at the end of the day, the Acquila Favonia it's even better, because the Skyward Blade, when you refine it, only increase the damage bonus, and at the end it's the same. It's 40% attack on the Favonia and 40% damage bonus on here. But the multiplier is the same, so it doesn't really change anything. The crit rate increase up to an 8%, and that's a bit garbage still, because it's a 5-star weapon at max refine. And the attack speed and move speed doesn't increase. So it's useless, it's still a worst weapon. Even because if you think about the Acquila Favonia passive, when you refine it, you don't only gain more attack, but you actually heal more, and you deal more damage with the passive alone. Now, the strong thing about the Skyward Blade, so it's not its raw damage, that it's actually outclassed by the Favonia, but it's the energy recharge, because as we said, it has an energy recharge of 55.1%. And this, with a different artifact set or with a different character, can really go up. You can actually surpass the 100% energy recharge, and if you do, it's actually very strong, because if you take a look at where is I'm retarded. So let's see if I can see this. Now I need a second to find what I need, but I wanted to see is that you actually gain a lot of more energy, because I just remember that when you kill an enemy with the orb, and let's say that an enemy drop an orb, I can't find the page, but I know that when you kill an enemy and they drop an orb, and it's the same element, you gain 9 energy. Now, if you have an energy recharge of 100%, you gain double energy, so 18. And that's a lot, because as I said, you can actually surpass the 100%. It's hard because you actually need to invest all in energy recharge, but if you do, your character can actually use their ultimate very fast. And so the damage that you lose in your attacks, you actually gain it back in your spell. But as I said, in my opinion, the Skyward Blade is actually good on support character and even on DPS if you want that if you have a good character with a good ultimate. But the Favonia is actually stronger in base attacks alone. Of course, you need to consider it then the defense of the enemy you are fighting and their resistance, because different enemies have different defense and have different resistance. So there are enemies that, for example, have a good elemental resistance and enemies that have a good physical resistance. And so Against enemies that have a bad physical resistance, the favonia is actually good. The problem is that most enemies actually have a good physical resistance. The only one are the futui, the common futui monster, and they are not what you're looking for, because if you want a good weapon, you want the weapon to destroy all type of enemies, even boss. But most boss actually have a good element resistance and a good physical resistance. So for now, in the set of game, if you take a look on the wiki, there aren't a lot of enemies that have a weak physical resistance. So the Acquila favonia is still, in my opinion, even with the resistance of the enemies, it will be the damage output will be even better than the Skyward Blade. But the Skyward Blade has the energy recharge. That's what most people use the sword for. Just to give it to a character, he attacks, you gain energy, you spam your ultimate. So yeah, at the end of the day, we understood that the Acquila favonia damage with your base attacks and physical damage in general is actually much better than the Skyward Blade in any case. Now keep in mind that I took a random character with random stats. So if you have a different artifact set, a different character attack, or a different attack speed, you just redo my maths by just changing the formula, the number on the formula, and you see if the favonia, the Skyward Blade is still better. And keep in mind the passive of the favonia and the secondary stats of the Skyward Blade. So see what's better for you and understand if you want more raw damage or you want to spam your ultimate. I hope that this video was useful and see you on the next video.